This week's anchor text is a biography, and it's called My Name is Gabriella. Let's look at the genre over on the left-hand side. Biography is bolded, and we have read a biography before when we first started with Helen Keller. A biography tells about events in a person's life. As you read, look for information about why a person is important and events in time order. A biography is true. It's written about a real person. And a biography is written by somebody else telling about somebody else's life. So this is real and true, written about somebody else. So let's meet the author, Monica Brown. Monica Brown's daughters think it's pretty cool to have a mom who's an author. At book signings, they'll walk up and announce that it was their mommy who wrote this book. Miss Brown says the family lives in Arizona, not far from the Grand Canyon. That would be pretty cool. Meet the author, John Parra. John Parra grew up in California in a home filled with Mexican art, food, and traditions. Today, Mr. Parra's colorful artwork can be seen in galleries, on posters and CD covers, and in the pages of children's books. So, my name is Gabriella. The essential question, something to think about while we are reading and you are listening, is why are reading and writing important? And that is a great question. My name is Gabriella Mistral. It is a name I chose myself because I like the sound of it. I love words and sounds and stories. Me too. I'm already making a text to self connection with this. When I was a little girl, I lived with my mother, Emelina, my sister, When I was a little girl, I lived with my mother and Emelina, my sister, in a small house in the beautiful Elqui Valley in Chile. From my bedroom window, I could see the Andes Mountains. When I couldn't sleep, I would look up at the mountains and wonder what could be beyond them. Zebras with polka dots? Rainbow-colored flowers? Angels reading books? I loved words. I liked the sounds they made rolling off my tongue, and I liked the way they could express how I felt. When I saw a butterfly fluttering, I noticed the way the words fluttering butterfly sounded together like a poem. I taught myself to read so that I could read other people's words and stories. I read stories about princes and princesses, about monsters, and about birds and flowers. I also liked to write poems, sing songs, and tell stories using the words that I knew. I told stories about happy times and sad times, about mothers and babies and little children. I think that's really important to think about, that we don't just have to write about happy times or sad times. We can write about both. And we can write about everything that we know about. That's what she's telling us. Write about all the times that we know. I like to play school with the children of my village. I pretended to be the teacher, and my friends Sophia, Anna, and Pedro were my pupils. Pupils is another word for students. Pedro would always say that I was mean because I made him write his ABCs until he knew all the letters of the alphabet. But I told him that the alphabet is important. How else would he create words and tell his stories without it? In our pretend class, we sang songs like, "The baby chicks are saying peep, peep, peep. It means they're cold and hungry. It means they need some sleep." That was Sophia's favorite song. During recess, we had fun running and chasing and laughing and playing. When I grew up, I became a real teacher and writer. I taught the children of Chile, and many of my students became teachers themselves. I still write poems, happy poems, and poems, or happy poems, sad poems, stories of mothers and children, but I also wrote poems about animals, about parrots and peacocks and even rats. I also traveled to faraway places. I never saw zebras with polka dots or rainbow colored flowers, but I met wonderful children and their teachers. I traveled to Europe, to France and Italy. I traveled to Mexico. I traveled to the United States. Everywhere I went, I wrote and taught and met teachers. I saw how all over the world people wanted their children to learn. My stories traveled the world with me. People liked to read my happy stories, my sad stories, my stories of women and children, my stories of parrots and peacocks, of old lions, and of the fisher folk who slept in the sand and dreamt of the sea. And because people from all over the world loved my stories so, I was given a very special prize, the Nobel Prize for Literature. When I accepted the grand award, I thought of the beautiful mountains and outside of my window in Chile, of my mother and sister, of the children of my village, and of all the stories that still need to be told.